Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Farmington Public Schools March Spotlight. I'm very excited to have with me Elena Recinto, an eighth grader from Warner Middle School, who is the creator of ElenaReads.com, which is an online blog that not only reads books of high interest, but also does reviews of them. So we have a very special presentation, but before we get started, I just first of all want to welcome you and thank you for being our March Spotlight. What better spotlight than to have in March's Reading Month than an actual person who blogs about reading? So let's just start with a couple of basic questions. So what do you like about reading, and maybe do you have a favorite type of literature that you like to read?
Yes, I'm a very avid reader. I like reading because it kind of lets me escape into like different worlds, and I get to see different things from different perspectives. I also love to see like how authors will have their own take on a certain subject. It's really interesting. I really like dystopian novels. Like one I'm reading right now is Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. And I also really enjoy poems and poetry like Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson.
Fantastic. Well, obviously you are on social media and you created this blog. Why did you choose to blog? What made you want to share your thoughts and reviews with the world?
Well, when I was in fourth grade, I still love to read, and I decided, like, when I was reading books off of my teacher's bookshelf, I noticed that there was a lack of books that had someone that looked like me on the cover. Mm-hmm. So I knew that at home I had a lot of stories that people who were Black like me or biracial like me, and I thought, well, a lot of people, they can only rely on their classroom libraries. And if those libraries don't have stories that have people that look like them, very diverse stories, then how are they supposed to see themselves in the books they read? So I decided to start a blog where I would post reviews on the books that I read so that I could kind of share with people some books that kind of are very diverse and they can see themselves in.
That's wonderful. And how long have you been doing this blog?
Ever since fourth grade, so it's almost 4 years.
So you did start it in fourth grade. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Well, I know that you're an avid reader, but many students just don't enjoy reading. So do you have any advice maybe for students who don't like to read, or any strategies of how, it might enhance their enjoyment of reading? We all understand the benefits of reading and how it impacts and positively influences application with other subject areas. So, but any advice to those readers who maybe don't like it as much?
Well, I guess I would say to start off with like a book that's fairly short. So you're not like kind of like pushing yourself to read a lot of pages, and try to find a book that you think that kind of like stands out to you and you think you may enjoy, because you really might enjoy it. And I think also people may tend to go for a different genre. So just kind of find a genre that you really like, and you can stick to that and really enjoy the books that are in that genre.
That's great advice. You look at like a 700-page book. So I read all nonfiction. I read like biographies, and for some people, boring things that maybe they don't find as engaging as fiction. But to look at like a 700-page novel, it can be intimidating to try to get through, and it's hard to keep that stamina. So that's great advice of not only picking something that might be reasonably an easy read and something of high interest, and then kind of building that stamina from there. Mm-hmm. And one last question before we get to your presentation is, obviously you're a blogger and you're online, but do you prefer traditional books that you can touch and feel, or are you an e-reader, or do you like both?
Well, I definitely enjoy traditional books. I do sometimes read books online, but it's just super interesting to read it and like feel the pages. Mm-hmm. I just really enjoy having a physical book in my hands rather than reading one online.
I agree with you. Isn't there like a sense of accomplishment when you finish
Yeah.
the book, or when you bookmark it and you see that you've gone through so much of the book, and then when you finish it, you can close it and put it on the shelf?
Hmm.
Wonderful. Well, again, it's March's Reading Month, and we couldn't have a better spotlight for this month. And so I want to turn it over to you. If you can walk us through, you've prepared a wonderful presentation to talk to us so we can learn more about Elena Reads. Take it away.
Hmm. Well, yes, this month is Reading Month, and I'm super excited to be talking about books. So, many people always wonder, why should we read? Like we just said, many people don't really read unless it's for like a presentation, or if it's for an assignment. But there are so many reasons that you should read, especially since it can be really fun. You should read because it's super important for your mind. It expands your mind and opens it to new ideas. When I first read Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson, I started to learn more about poetry because I was super inspired by her work. Reading helps strengthen your right brain skills. And also, when you read, you can become more empathetic because you're putting yourself in other people's shoes. Reading can also introduce you to new worlds and make your vocabulary grow. I know when I read Harry Potter, it was like I'd stepped into a whole new universe.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how Reading Month started? Well, it was because Dr. Seuss's birthday actually occurred in March, and it was designated as Reading Month in 2011. The month celebration was created to motivate people to read every day for the month of March. So, yes, it's super important to read, but it's equally important that you read diverse books. It's super important that kids are exposed to diversity in the books they read. So, as I said, I started my blog in 4th grade because I realized that there were not many books with people who looked like me on the pages. But over the past 4 years, I've noticed a significant change in the number of diverse books on the libraries and the classroom shelves. I think there's still a lack of them, but the numbers are increasing. First of all, when kids see themselves in books, it builds self-esteem and helps them feel valued. One example of this is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She's a Nigerian author who writes nonfiction and short story novels. When she was a kid, she loved to read, but all of the books she read featured characters who were white and blue-eyed. They played in the snow, and they talked about how good the weather was. But in Africa, where she lived, the weather was always, they never talked about how good the weather was, and they never played in the snow because there wasn't any snow. So when she wrote stories as a young girl, Adichie wrote about what she read about. All her characters were white, they played in the snow, and talked about how good the weather was. Because she never read about someone like her, she felt like her story didn't matter. Diverse books are also important because it's an easy way to teach kids about people who are not like them. When you read a book about someone who is maybe a different race than you, a different religion, they've experienced different things than you, then it can help you open your mind to people who are different. Finally, diverse children's books show a realistic representation of life. They can cover a variety of topics like homophobia and racism. You can learn about these serious topics and understand more about them through reading. So everyone is always asking me about my favorite novels, and here are some of my favorite fiction novels that I think people should read this month. Some of them include Wonder by R.J. Palacio. It's a very popular book about a boy who has a facial deformity, and it's a really powerful book about kindness and bullying. Another book that I recently read that the district recommended is Loretta Little Looks Back by Andrea Davis Pinkney. And here are some picture books for younger readers. These books are, some of these include When Penny Met POTUS. That's a really fun book. And another one is Kwame Alexander's The Undefeated. I read that for Black History Month, and it was very motivational and moving. And yeah. So this is my blog. This is my blog, and as you can see, I review a lot of books on there. I also interview authors and illustrators that that I really enjoy, and I get to learn more about them through the interviews. I also interview book lovers like me, and there's also a section for guest blogs where you can where I can basically have a break from like reviewing a book and have someone else review the book. So that is my blog. You can reach me on, here's my website, elenareads.com. You can reach me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and you can email me if you want to recommend a book for me to review or you want to do a guest blog. My email is also there. This has been really fun. Thank you so much for the time. And yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. It's really inspirational to see someone who wants to give back to others and to share the joy of reading and to emphasize the diversity of text and the purpose of exposing people to literacy at such a young age. So as I was listening to your presentation, it brought up a couple questions for me. I know you're this very avid reader, but do you write as well? You talked about interviewing authors or illustrators. Do you write or do you illustrate any of the covers yourself?
Yes, I'm not the best illustrator, but I do enjoy writing. I've done the reflections contest for a while now. Yeah, and I just sometimes will just write whatever comes to mind. I love writing fiction, and poetry is one of my strong suits.
Well, that is wonderful. Well, we so appreciate you being our March spotlight for the Farmington Public School District. And I want to say to you and to everyone, happy March's Reading Month.